I want to thank you for joining me today on this very special day. And I'm so happy that you could be here. And I must say that I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you this morning. This has been an amazing experience for me, and I just want to share it with you. So we'll get started. To start off, to begin, I thought it might be kind of fun for you to actually see and hold in your hands many of these original drawings that I did for the project. Some are very intricate, and as it moves along, then you'll see some that are just like trying to reduce what my original thoughts were. So if you want to just take these and then just collect them, just leave them at the end. But I hope you enjoy seeing them. There are a lot, and there were a lot more than that when I started preparing for this. As you recall, the mural wall looked very much like this, just blank and pretty drab, and it just needed a little bit of a pick-me-up, and I think that we were able to do that. I guess, let's see, in January of 2012, I had a show at the Market Street at the Hyatt here in Reston. It was a collaboration between the Greater Reston Art Center and the Hyatt. And I was standing there, it was at the reception, and a couple approached me and wanted to know, they were just highly excited. They were very excited about the art that was there, which made me, of course, feel very good. And they wanted to know if I knew who the artist was, and well, yes, I did. And so anyway, it turned out to be David and J.P. Brahoni. And David has just been a spearhead in this entire project. She's just been tremendous, and she's on her way in now. But she talked more and more and began discussing the possibility for a mural at the Reston Town Center. And sometimes you think, well, oh yeah, sure, but it is true. She was so excited about having this mural placed in that section that's right beside their house. And so we just began discussing, and we knew what we need. We needed two things. We needed the funding, and we needed a piece of art. And so David handled the funding, and I handled the art. The more we worked together, we realized what a good fit it was, because this was a great collaboration between the two of us as far as our ideas for what we did want in the painting. And a lot of you know my work, a lot of you sitting here own my work, and so you can only imagine what was going through my mind when we began this process. And on another thing about this, there were no guarantees. We were just working and just hoping that this would work in the beginning. So it's been a very long process. So you would probably recognize something more along this line that I've done. This was a live at Reston Town Center, and it showcased the architecture here in Reston, as well as a lot of the events and activities. Photography. I have taken so many photographs of this town center from the very beginning. So I have angles of some of these buildings that you no longer see, and it just acts as a great aid. So from this, I wasn't sure what we wanted, what we were looking for. So the other idea was something very complicated, and then something not so complicated, something in between. I then began compiling a list of different things that we had talked about and things that I thought might be very interesting, because see, I'm still on that one side of my mind is the just jam-packed full of ideas. So of course I have Midtown North, and we talked about this being a gateway to the community. So that Midtown North was absolutely essential as a part of this design. And the transit and the metro, Reston Station, all of these things, events. One of my favorite events here that I put in a lot of these Reston-related pieces is the Grace's Northern Virginia Fine Arts Festival. And we have so many things, there's always something going on here. The Taste of the Town Wine Festival that I think is going on now. And there are bike races and running events, there's always something. The pavilion has concerts, and so I could kind of imagine some of these, the instruments kind of flying all over the place. The buildings here, there's so much to draw from, restaurants, storefronts, etc. It's just a great place to work and play. What was a help to me was this had to be to scale, so it was more difficult than some of the other pieces that I work on. So I created these templates, and I'll talk about the color later on, but these templates that just gave me a blank space so that I could just, if I had an idea, just start getting it down on paper. And then in addition to this, I did actually start larger paintings. One was about 30 by 33 inches. And it was a lot like what you see there, what you've been passing around. So anyway, we kept going because I wasn't quite sure, as I said. So we did more of these images, and I'm going to actually pass these around too. There's a little bit of work with the scale, and this one I felt like, you'll just look at these, don't worry about what each one it is. But this one I felt like we were getting a little bit closer, but just not quite there yet. And then, again, starting to reduce. And David had the idea, because the bus stop is right there at that section, to have, the work people coming off of the bus and approaching the staircase. So we did think about that. Also, there's a street sweeper that's there every morning, so put him in. And then there's a woman walking down the stairs with a dog, and
it looked a lot like me.
Could be David. Anyway, so still not being there, I was just getting very frustrated, and so I decided to just go ahead and tape a piece of paper down and just get started. So this one was the last one, and speaking of being I really, these are a lot of drawings. So this one I just decided to animate the buildings, and there's no way this would work, but I think it's really funny. So that's that one. So now that we have some idea of what we were thinking about, we went to the muralist, David and I, and we met Brian King, the muralist, and also Ann Delaney from IPAR. And we just were discussing the nuts and bolts of this whole thing and trying to just get it right. And so what was decided was that we couldn't quite do the one that was so packed full of images here. I had to do something with less in it, because the cost of that would have been somewhere close to $100,000 for the murals. And so, that was thrown out. So we started thinking, well, maybe something more like the Reston Home Tour design that I did. This one was from the year 2011, and David and JP's home that you saw, the condo that was there right by the wall, was actually, their home was actually in this year's. And she liked the color a lot. And the more we talked, I did too, because it seemed like these colors would go really well with the surrounding the frame and the brick around where the image was to be. And actually, I was not opposed to this, to have less and less, because when you think about it, it will be a lot more readable from the street. And with traffic, we wanted to keep that in mind. Brian just started discussing the palette that he had to use, that we had to choose from. And this particular kind of paint is Kime. It's a German paint. It's used all over Europe, and it's 100% sustainable. It's resistant to pollutants and fade resistant, and it's used in, as I say, in Europe a lot. It was used at Windsor Castle and also at the White House. The paint itself, you ask yourself, well, why don't we use that on our homes? But the paint is It comes in a little less than a gallon, but the paint is actually $750 for a little less than a gallon, so there you go. But I thought we did a pretty good job in selecting the colors. We needed to stay within this particular group of pine paint because that would be what we were looking for the mural. So from the drawings, and after meeting the muralist, I went home to that blank piece of paper and just got started. I decided I'm not doing any more of these little drawings anymore, I'm just gonna hit it. So what I have here is the image, and when you see the video, this will all make sense. This section here is where I began. And what I like to do is start with the architecture first and then just build. And you can go forward and backwards with that, overlapping buildings, cutting through walls, and leaving open space to just give you just something that will just pop out of the paper. So that's what we did there. That's what I did there. I like the bicycles because Mike and I like to cycle a lot, and so that's in here. I've got the Dulles Airport Volkswagen. You see the bus. In some of the drawings you saw, the bus was just pulling in, but then I thought, let's turn the bus, the face of the bus, so it makes it look like it's turning the corner. There's a yield sign here. I love a lot of these buildings. This is Midtown North, in case you can't. Some of them are very identifiable and some are not so much. Accenture building is always terrific because I think it looks like a robot. And the Greater Reston Art Center is here. Of course, it has to be here because without Grace, I wouldn't be standing here and before you. The buildings, let's see, this is VeriSign is over here. This is the new building. We got the plans for this before it was even anything was up. So that was David helped get that, and then we decided that we would frame this here, and actually we weren't sure how to do that. So what to do. We were thinking of this photographer. So, and you'll see in the video, there are many different ideas about who to use, not who to use, what to use. So we started some sculptures, like the one across the street here. There's a man that looks like little cards or something. I don't even know how to explain that. Anyway, eventually it evolved into that very special person sitting here, Robert E. Simon. And we have him as the photographer because he is the man. He is the man who developed Reston, and we wanted him to be taking a snapshot. And so we have Bob at the camera, and then just as a little extra fun thing, we put a dog. This is Verhoney's dog, and his name happens to be Midtown Buster Brown. So that was fitting. So he's the photographer, and he's also the muralist with the paint brushes in behind. And then this was his vision. So we have the compass here at the top. I'm trying to think. Can you think of anything else about
the 6750?
Oh yeah, over here, this was JP's idea. There's 6750 is here on the street sign, and that's actually, do you remember, Bob? That's the number of acres that Bob purchased to develop Reston.
Somebody came by last week and they said, that's not the address. And I was like, duh.
That's good. So, and the fountain is here, the umbrellas, there's really great yellow umbrellas over there. And the sun always shines on Reston, doesn't it? Even if it's a cloudy day. So,
and your Saturn on a string.
The Saturn on a string, someone asked me about that earlier. I was with Touchstone Gallery downtown many, many years ago, and there was a director of the gallery who became a very good friend, and she just sort of kept pushing me, try this, try that. I was doing really flat and perspective pieces, and trying to actually teach myself how to do watercolor because I don't have a background in watercolor, it's printmaking and fiber. and she suggested that I put a window in one. I tried flowers a lot because it's something you can have right in front of you and you can see, it's easily accessible. And so she just kept pushing and pushing, and that's actually how all of this happened. And one painting, one of the very earlier ones had, the tile floor was coming down sort of as an S. And there were a couple of humanoid characters that were shooting marbles. Well, the marbles then evolved into planets, and the planets, one was Saturn, and it was on a string, and there you have it. So that's something that I always put in the paintings, as well as the tile floor, and paintbrushes are always, there's a rare case where there would not be a paintbrush, but for the most part there is. So, anything else you can think of? No? We're going to move on now to the actual process of the mural. The muralist could not come today, so we were very disappointed, but I'm going to try to wing his part, and David can help too. The wall was prepared, it was parged. Do you want to do the parging?
Yeah.
You want to do parging?
Yeah, the wall was, the wall
This is
was
JP.
originally a concrete wall that they had the plywood forms on, and they tore the forms off. And the wall was, I don't want to say unattractive, but I'll say ugly.
Unattractive.
But it had a big coal joint in it. The coal joint is where the concrete trucks come, and you wait a few minutes for the next one to come. You could see, without being an expert in construction, you could see it was intended for something to go on that wall. So there's a great company that, I'm a home builder, and whenever I do a stone and stucco house, there's a company called Roby, R-O-B-E-Y, Larry Roby from Maryland. And if you see some of these beautiful stone and stucco houses around the area, he's done a lot of those. And what they did is they prepared the surface. So they took a metal lab, like a real heavy metal chicken wire, if you will, and nailed it on with cut nails. And then they put 3 coats of stucco and Portland cement on it. They put what's called a scratch coat that goes into those little areas within the wire. And then they put a brown coat on, then they put a final coat. And the whole reason for that mesh is so that surface now is really part of the original wall. So you're not trying to bond concrete to concrete that could flake off. Because no matter how good this paint is that Dana is telling you about, it's only as good as the bond between the 2 pieces of concrete. And so what they did is they knew our intent was to paint on it. So in addition to giving a trowel finish, they would take these big wet sponges. Much like you see when the ceramic guys like grout a floor, they'll take big heavy wet sponges and sponge it and get it really smooth. And then we let it set up for, I guess, about 3 months or so to make sure there was no air cracks or anything. But that was important because we felt like it's like anything else in life. Everything starts with the foundation and what surface you're preparing. So that's how we prepared the surface before Brian got on it. So.
Thank you. And let me tell you, it was a smooth surface. I was just astonished. It was very easy to paint on. It was just, I just did a fabulous job. I'm going to move on to, I also want to tell you because with the paint that I use these little tiny tubes of paint. It's Winsor Newton. And then I mix them all and keep them in these little tubs. And this is where I do all of my paintings. So just shake it up and then get started again. And that makes every piece consistent in color. With the next step was the scaffolding went up, which was very exciting. And then I gave Brian King, the muralist, I gave him an image just like this. This is from my printer in Old Town. It's Old Town Editions is the name of the company. And they do my limited editions for me. So that's what this piece is. But so they took that and I gave it to Brian, and Brian took it to ABC Imaging, where they blew the design up, and they were long strips. I'm not sure how deep, Dana.
They were like 6 feet by 12 feet. They were huge.
Yeah. So it came in 3 panels, and what he did was ABC did was it's just in black and white. So those were rolled up and then brought to the site. And then there's a technique called pouncing. And so what that is, do you want to do that fast?
Yeah.
Just go, sit
Okay,
here.
tell about
And then I'll describe
Okay.
this. Just,
Yeah, the pouncing, what they do is they take the pattern, which is very large, and before they put it on the wall, there's a little instrument that kind of looks like a pizza cutter. You know how a pizza cutter goes tick, 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 tick? It's a little perforator. And so you run it along, it's a little wheel, you run it along the outline, it makes little perforations, and then you tape it up to the wall in the right position. And then Brian said to me, "I need your pantyhose." And I said, "What? You need my pantyhose? Why?" And he said, "I forgot mine." I said, "Oh, this is getting worse." But what he needed my pantyhose for was he took some scissors and he cut the feet off my pantyhose and he made something that looks like this. And he there's this powdered graphite. So what they do, and this is nice. She's made a little fake one here. It isn't actually graphite, so we can demonstrate. But you put it on the little holes.
that's right. Yeah, it's really a fascinating process. And Michelangelo used this long ago in the Sistine Chapel, and I had never heard about this. But it was the same, he was painting on plaster though, so instead of doing all the little dots, he could actually make a slice in the paper and then just do the line, and then he could quickly do the art. I mean, it took, I guess, what, 4 years? So that's how you can speed up this. Not that we're comparing these two.
Michelangelo cheated.
Yeah. So I prepared this to actually show you. So with the black and white, this is a little section, I guess, right in, part of this right here. So what I did so that you could see and understand, I took a piece of paper and just perforated it. So that, I'm not sure, can you see the holes through here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. So you see those holes. And so that was placed right on the wall. These are strips were placed right on the wall. And we also had, several images about this size and sometimes smaller that we would tape on the wall as we worked. But what I wanted to show you here is, so you do this. You pounce it with the graphite, and it's a hard and extremely messy experience, let me tell you. So what you get is something that looks like this. And from here, you have the dots on the wall, but then you also have, you need to go back over it because with a large level and a marker so that you get these lines exactly where they need to be. So that's done, and then we move on to painting. And he began the painting with black. Well, it was blue. The wall, if you remember, he painted the entire wall blue to start. And that's because that was the predominant color, and that made it easier to go back in and to do all the rest of the work. But the first after that was the black. So a lot of the lines were painted. And for this, say on the wall is one of the black lines was say like an inch or two wide. You had to pounce each side of that line. It wasn't like you just took the brush and painted down. You had to have everything had to be laid out. So from there, the black, and then started filling in with color. And I got to help paint for about a week before I had to leave town, but it was the most exciting experience that I've had. I really mean it. And David helped too. We all, just pitched in where we could. And then you find yourself, I have a pretty steady hand, but on the painting on the wall, the brushes are much larger. And so if it isn't a really good brush, that's in really good condition, it's more difficult than you might think. But I thought I had the hang of it. I had a blast. It was really, really fun. So some of the brushes were more along the line of something just squared off or something more chiseled. as opposed to what I use on my paintings, these little tiny guys. So anyway, that's about it. It took a couple weeks to do, a little 2.5 weeks maybe, but it was just wonderful.
Will the paint ever have to be refreshed, redone?
It's durable for a decade, so no. If there was something ever happened to the wall, we have extra paint that could touch that up. Hopefully that won't happen.
You had children painting?
Yeah, as part of one of the grants, the one from Fairfax County, David had the idea to bring in children to paint, and actually one of the children is here, Haley over there. So you'll see in the video, this will all come together, but some of the children that are there, and that was really fun because they were having a great time and meeting the muralists, and that was really terrific. So I will answer any other questions people have. Tried to cover everything, but.
Dana, I might just add, since it's really not a question, but David's perseverance in this project has really been incredible. As you can hear, just doing the painting is quite a labor-intensive project. Well, it was a 2-year run-up to get to that point.
It was.
Working with all the community organizations, working with the design review board, working with our homeowners association. There were various stumbling blocks along the way. All of these are institutions, so they have boards. It takes time to get through that process. And
Robert
it's not
got
something
many
that-
angry emails at 11 o'clock at night. I was like, "Dear Robert, this is not working out."
She did a great job. So it's less a question and more so that you can all really appreciate the kind of elbow grease that went into making this happen. And really, Dava and JP
She was
single-handedly
the
did a
spearhead, and
phenomenal job.
JP did help a lot, absolutely.
I just
So-
wanted to say, if you didn't mention it too about the paint, because I came in a little bit late, but the kind paint, it's really unusual in that it's 100% natural. It's actually made from, and you were asking about the paint, it's actually made from powdered minerals. The blue that you see is powdered lapis lazuli.
Oh, wow.
And that's the reason you mentioned $750 for a little tin. The reason it's expensive is because it's natural minerals. The red is iron oxide. It cannot flake. What it does is it forms a molecular bond with the surface underneath of it and actually becomes part of the wall. So I did have one person that said, "Well, it's a bit bright, but I suppose it will fade with time." I was like, "No way, Jose." It's not going to fade. It won't fade. It won't flake. It's there forever. There are buildings in Europe that literally were painted 100 years ago that have never
The
been
paint could
touched
be
up.
there longer than the building.
Yeah, the paint will be there longer than any of us, except for Bob. He'll still be here.
I'm gonna ask that last one.
But
He'll
so
still be
now,
here.
I want to invite you all to come in and see the video. It's really, Elizabeth, my daughter, helped put that, well, actually, I should say, she put it together. I took some of the photographs. So I think you're going to enjoy it. It's really fun, and try to keep your feet still. I think you're going to love this music. Okay, I think you'll recognize it. So come on in.